Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 882 to 883 for the 24th to 25th of July. And the frontline changes report, two of them for both days, 24th and the 25th of July's frontline changes report has already been published, and they are both published on the main channel. And the main channel, I've also published reaction to the interview by the Guardian with Oleksandr Syrsky, the commander-in-chief of Ukrainian Armed Forces. There's a lot of contradicting information that he says, and because he's trying to tell the truth, to really try to share the plight of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, but at the same time he cannot be overly negative, and as a result, the cope with the reality doesn't mix well. It's just very confusing. So it is a brilliant video, I think, to watch. But it's for the pro-Ukrainians. Don't watch. It's very emotional, damaging to watch it. So don't watch it. So still watch it, please. And okay, we're gonna start off with two more frontline changes report. Since the frontline changes report has been gone out. It's around 1 hour after the frontline changes report. After that 1 hour mark, I did not do any more mapping. So this as per what it was at that moment. So there is Krasnohorivka and Mala-Tomashka, some additional updates. So these are based on Russian claims. Krasnohorivka, there is some updates based on a geolocation. So this is not exactly claims. So at the Battle of Krasnohorivka in the Donetsk front, Russian forces geolocated at near this junction. So Russian forces have advanced further up north. So there's a lot of ways to map this. You can actually map it like this. You can also map it like this. So for me, I went for the most conservative one, which is purely a poke, a poke up. So because I do not want to overclaim the potential capture, because a geolocation is basically firm captures, so I don't want to overdo it. I prefer to wait for the sources, the OSINTs that have direct sources on the ground to update us with the situation on the ground would be more preferable. So this is the Krasnohorivka frontline change. The next frontline change is over at Mala-Tomashka, over at the Zaporizhia front. So Zaporizhia city, Zaporizhia front, Orikhiv sector. So at Mala-Tomashka, along the highway, in the frontline changes report just now, on the main channel, we have this geolocation. Based on the Russian mapping, the extension is a bit further. It includes one more junction of the tree lines along the highway, as well as further and one more tree line along this highway. So it's a bit bigger than what we have mapped. So it is what it is. The one tree line to another tree line is around 600 meters. So it's actually quite a long stretch of field. So anyway, that's it for the frontline changes report. We go into the strategic and tactical reporting, and we go into the Kharkiv front. So at the Kharkiv front, in the general situation, we have, of course, the Lipsy sector, and then the Starizhia sector, the Voshchan sector, and this out of the way place where there is some incursion. So over at the Lipsy sector, Russian forces seemingly have retaken Klipoke based on the mapping and reporting from the Russian sources. Russian forces are still attacking in the Klipoke region. They are also pushing over at Lipsy, and there's some shelling or fighting reported in Mali Prokhody, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Most likely it's just shelling. Ukrainian forces continue to get airstriked by the Russian forces along the lake in the Dacha region in the north of Lipsy. So Ukrainian forces continue to try to hold a position, but this is getting really painful. But we shall see. This is exactly how the Russians want it, and this is also exactly the battle that Ukraine chose to fight. Because Ukraine can choose not to fight and fight in a different place, but this is where they chose to fight, and whatever it is still plays into the Russian hands. So this is the situation over at Lipsy. So over at the Starizhia region, there is some clash of opinions. On the 24th, the Russian sources reported the Ukrainians are the one attacking, whereas on the 25th, the Russian Defense Ministry said that they are attacking. So the main thing about the Russian report is that it basically acknowledging this geolocation of the Ukrainian forces, where the Ukrainian forces have actually taken grounds over in Staricia. The Russian sources acknowledge this success by the Ukrainian side. However, the Russians are still attacking according to the Russian Defense Ministry for the next day. So clashes over Staricia continues. So that's all for the Staricia sector. We go into the Voschansk sector. At the Voschansk sector, we have the usual Russian forces attacking in the Battle of Voschansk, and the Russians are putting pressure on Taiki. This is pretty normal. But you can see there's a number of geolocation. Every one of this is an airstrike. These are all airstrikes. And so Russian forces basically bombard heavily over at the high-rise region, somewhere on the eastern part and also in the southern part of Voschansk. So you can see the current conundrum that the Ukrainian forces have to face, because holding up in this high-rise zone seems very good. To try to hold this position. These are the various possible positions the Ukrainians can hold up. These can be all strong points. These are all big buildings and high buildings. But while the Russians are supposedly attacking, they are not really attacking. They are just holding ground, and then they're just bombarding and calling in airstrikes. Of course, the Ukrainians are probably doing the same thing with artillery and whatnot. And the Russian soldiers are suffering at the same time. But it's not as bad as the Ukrainians because of the Russian air superiority. So this is the current conundrum the Ukrainians have to face. Either you hold there and take it all in, or you have to suck it up. Both take it all in and suck it up is the same thing, or just abandon position. So of course they won't abandon position, because this is the Ukrainian way of doing things. So we go into the far regions. There at Krule, there is another attack being reported on the 24th, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Russians continue to try to harass the Ukrainian forces that is probably in this region. I think it's very, very small scale, so don't think too much about this for now. So that's it from the Kharkiv front. Oh, there's one more actually on the other side. So Russian disturbed at Krole, and they have returned to Sonitsky Kozachok. So Sonitsky Kozachok is where the Russians previously have actually accidentally conquered the village. So they are now back again, seeing the Ukrainians retake it and maybe retreated from it. So the Russians are back. So you can see how ridiculous this is. They are stretching the Ukrainians. Stretching the Ukrainians in two different directions. You can see how they stretch it. While the Russians are also pushing in this tree location in the center. So the Ukrainian forces, while they are trying to deal with all this, now they have to divert attention to the flanks as well. Very, very difficult situation for the Ukrainians. So as you can see, this is the buffer zone around Belgorod. So this is looking like some piece of art. No, it's a sunrise. Okay, forget it. Move into the Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front in the Sinkivka sector, Russian forces are pushing at Sinkivka and Petropavlivka as usual. Some reports of a TOS strike, thermobaric strikes, are being reported or geolocated in the north of Kalinove, east of Kalinove, and south of Sinkivka. So any Ukrainian stronghold in this position is going to be wiped out. Quite scary. So that's the Sinkivka region. Moving further south, southern half of the Kupiansk region, Russian forces are putting pressure over at Stepova Novoselivka, as well as some attack over in the Pivshani region. These geolocations are airstrikes. So this is shelling. So this artillery shelling. So one is artillery shelling, and this is artillery shelling. This is an airstrike. So but you can see the Russians did not push. They are holding the line. They're just grinding away the Ukrainian defenders that come on forward to take over the position. So this is actually pretty depressing. This literally what a cannon fodder is. So So one side use cannon fodder, the other side use mid wave. So they are no match in heaven. So over in Sviatové front, at the northern sector, over at Semakivka, Russian forces are making some push. There is geolocation of Russian forces in the eastern part of Andriivka, invalidating part of the Ukrainian claims. So this is the northern part of the Sviatové front. There's nothing over the southern part. Only until Makiivka, Nevsky region, Russian forces are conducting some assaults at Nevsky and Makiivka region. Some geolocation in both locations is artillery shelling. These are artillery shelling geolocated by military summary. So that's all for this area. Over at this in the east of Novosadove, same thing, is just shelling. So these are all just shelling reports, simply showing Ukrainian presence in these regions here. So this some good some good work by the the geolocator working for military summary. So good job. Over in the Crimea front, there is no report. Our usual Terny, Toske is not, and Dibrova not mentioned. The only one mentioned was by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry in the Serebryansky forestry. Both 24th and 25th Russian forces are pushing within the forest. So and then there is also airstrikes being reported or geolocated within the forest getting struck. So the Russians is now putting concentration on the forest region, and I think maybe this is something to do with the Azov brigade that was making this push in this region previously. So if they continue to stay in this region, the Russian forces would be very, very keen to fight with them and to take them out. So we have been seeing all these airstrikes and this counteroffensive from the Russian side. So this battle, has reignited. How? I do not know. I mean, strategically, it's not very useful for the Ukrainians to hold Serebryansky forestry. The main purpose, it would just to defend the Sivers front and Liman. So Sivers is over here, this Sivers and the Sivers front and Liman. So this entire front line around here along this forest, the whole point of fighting in the forest is to defend Sivers, because there is this major road across the Seversky Donetsk River. This links Sivers with Liman. This is one of these major highway that they can resupply, which leads all the way to Sloviansk. So this is one important communication route that they need to hold. There's actually a railway line through Dronivka, if I'm not wrong, but I think the bridge was destroyed already. I don't think the trains can operate over there. So and you can see, if I zoom out further, you can see that from Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, there's a highway leading down all the way, and there's a road going through Vasyukivka and going up to Sivers. The other one goes to Liman and go down to Sivers. This is already gone. This is already taken out by the Russian forces. So because of the Russian advances in this area, they're fighting just at Vasyukivka in the Sako-Ivaseti region. So this area here has been closed up. So the Ukrainians have to go through this highway from the north. They can actually go through Rai Alexandrivka, through Kryvyi Luka, this another road. This however is a slower road, which they can still use. So something that I always mention is the Russians taking Rai Alexandrivka, and then from here they swing up, cutting these roads, and then the Ukrainians would only have this road, this Liman road left to resupply the entire Sivers front. The entire Sivers front would depend on this just one road, and this is then the operational weakness of this front, because the Russian forces have taken enough grounds to make Sivers pretty vulnerable. And this vulnerability is very similar to the situation in the New York front, where the New York front also have very limited roads. They also only have two main roads, one through Torex, the other one through the highway near New York. And so the Russians actually can make some move, but the thing is, do the Russians really want to collapse the front so quickly? So I got a feeling that they don't want to, because it's not the right time. So whatever it is, that's the current strategic realities that the Ukrainians have to face. Over at the Sivers front, Russian forces are attacking in Verkhnokayamsky, Spurny, Ivano-Darivka, over at Rozdolivka and Peresny. And I can tell you one very weird situation. There is a geolocation of Russian forces over at Ivano-Darivka. So they are currently in, this video footage allegedly is the Ukrainian soldiers surrendering to the Russian soldiers. However, if you look at Ukrainian mapping, the front line still look like this. This is still the front line to the Ukrainians. This entire Ivano-Darivka push was not acknowledged yet by the Ukrainian mapping. So to them, this does not exist at all. This is purely on the Russian map. So, however, these are confirmed by geolocation. So I'm not sure what is the delay on the Deep State UA side for not updating this yet. So we will just wait for another 2 days and see whether they will react, because there's more than one geolocation, more than one video now being geolocated in Ivano-Darivka. So we have to just continue to wait and see when they will acknowledge the fall of such a huge ground. The depth of the ground from the front line is around almost 3 kilometers. So it's a huge amount of ground lost. So I think they are not ready to acknowledge it just yet. So otherwise, strategically, the situation remains the same. We move into the Bakhmut front. So the Bakhmut offensive continues over in this area here. This time around, we have no fighting being reported at Vesikivka or Zeleniansky. We are now seeing the concentration of attack over towards Novomakove. Over here, Novomakove, Krykhovka. There is this push in the direction of Maisky. This is the first time we have seen the word Maisky appearing in any reports. This is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry for the yesterday's report. First time we have seen this. There's also fighting reported in the Kalinina region towards Chasivya and towards Novi. So this is also very interesting. We haven't seen Novi being mentioned in a specific term for almost a month. So this is also reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The Russians are making serious push across the entire front line, but it looks like the main push is probably to capture Krykhovka. This is my guess. I think Krykhovka and all the canal region along Novomakove. I think this area here, I think it's the Russian main objective. This is where the Russians, I think, really want to push through, and not so much into Chasivya itself. Because you go into Chasivya, you cannot get out. Like, you go in, you have to fight all the way in. I think the Russians are not ready for that kind of thing. They want to hold position. They want to be able to control the tide of war. If you go into Chasivya, then you will be under assault. So I think that's why I think the Russians is going to draw the line for now. And in the southern half, other than the fighting at Ivaniske, we have no more reports over in the south. So very peculiar. We move into the New York front. At the New York front, we have the Torak sector as the New York sector. Over at the Torak sector, the Russian forces continue their Torak offensive, with fighting reported at Druzhba, in the Pivnishny region towards Torak, and in the region of Zalizny. And in particular, we have Ukrainian forces geolocated in 2 different locations, especially this one that was inside the high-rise zone, so invalidating some Russian claims. However, Russian forces have been geolocated in Zalizny, and they have expanded control over in this northern part of Zalizny. So I have mentioned in the frontline changes report, the Russian force, this is the conservative mapping based on what the geolocation is. The Russian forces have basically moved up to this position. There is a possibility that the Ukrainians still hold all this part of Zalizny, but if this is the case, Russian forces could pincer them, and they can conduct a pincer to encircle these Ukrainian forces. So but there is no guarantee, because there is also a possibility that the Russians have captured all these grounds. So let's wait and see. And all this progress shows that the Ukrainians' high ground is pretty pointless. Or maybe it's very useful, because they have this entire buffer zone that is not captured by the Russian forces due to the high ground. So the Russians just swing in another direction. There's also a possibility. So this castle around here has done its job. So let's wait and see how this develop. South of Zalizny, there's also Ukrainian geolocated, showing the Ukrainians have some better positions than previously understood based on the mapping. Russian forces have this high ground around here, so I don't think it's going to make much difference. I think the front line here is going to get stuck. I have some difficulty believing that the Russians is going to storm into the highly defended fortified regions. I still feel like it only makes sense for them to continue to punch through the softer bellies, of the New York front. So over at the New York itself, the Russian forces continue their offensive in the New York region. There is no updates regarding the battles in the city itself. We have new updates of Russian forces taking more grounds towards Pentalemnivka. So otherwise, this is all we know of at the New York front. And we move into the Avdiivka front. In the northern flank of the Avdiivka front, you can see this is where they shed its pants. So for those that do not know what shed its pants means, it just simply means that you cannot control anymore and everything came out. And then you realize you need to go to the toilet. So anyway, the Russian forces continue to harass Ukrainian forces in the Kalinove region. They also attack in the Novo-Alexandrivka towards Vodizenka, and they have this breakthrough over in the Lozovatsky region, and then Ukrainian forces that was in the salient or in the operational encirclement seems to have ran away, managed to escape, or they are destroyed. So Russian forces are attacking Timofievka, and they have now reached to the outskirts of Lysychny. They are now also have a massive progress over in Progress, with Russian forces taking most of Voschev. They are heading up towards Ivanivka and towards Vasily. So you can see this is the area where the Russians are making massive progress. This you can see this is how the arrow looks like. The yellow arrow is how the Russians are pushing. So this is where the main push is, and is looking more and more correct that the actual intention now is towards Pokrov. So, which invalidates my analysis that I thought that they will encircle and go towards Konstantinivka. So I thought that they will go through this entire ground towards the north of Konstantinivka and cause the fall of the entire of the New York front. I thought that they will go this way, and this would actually collapse the entire New York front. I thought this is what they would do, but no, they prefer to go towards a more heavily defended place, which is it works too. I mean, it makes more sense. The fall of Pokrov is a bigger disaster for the Ukrainians. So Russian forces pushing in this direction is a very ambitious endeavor. So there is 3 bosses around here. First, they need to attack Khodivka. Taking this small boss, they will have to go and take the lieutenant, the Minograd. So after Minograd, if they can conquer Minograd, then they'll fight with the big boss Pokrov. Then once they take Pokrov, they will basically mess up the entire logistics in half of the Donetsk Oblast that the Ukrainians have control. So very, very significant. Like Pokrov is this spider web. You can see this is a spider web from Pokrov. This is Konstantinivka, which is less powerful than Pokrov. So if you have Pokrov, then I would say the affected fronts will be this much. This entire area is going to be heavily affected. Yeah, it's going to be this much. This area here, I think the Ukrainians still have other ways to reinforce, but no, everything else here is going to be like messed up. So, and of course the Ukrainians still have Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, but no, that's the northern half situation. The southern half is very Pokrov centric. So if the Russians really pushing for this, well, I will be very impressed if they actually do it. But the fact that they can actually push this much already, the distance from Pokrov is not really that far. It's around 20 kilometers. So we might actually see that happen if the Russians continue at this pace. We might actually see Pokrov, the Battle of Pokrov, in 3 months time, I guess. So anyway, Voschev also, was almost fully captured. There's only a little bit of Voschev left, with the Russians taking a lot of grounds around here. Very, very significant frontline changes here. And the Russian forces pushing down this entire railway line is just crazy speed. This is super fast, and they're now at the outskirts of Vasily. They are on the outskirts of Ivanivka, and they can continue to push down to Serhievka. So Serhievka is over here. They can continue to push down. So a lot of very, very significant thing. And if they push to Serhievka, they can also hit Zaline, and then the Russians can cross the river and attack it in a pincer attack. This is just a lot of tactical problems. So yeah, we shall see how this goes. Syrsky, the commander of Ukrainian forces, say that all these Russian gains are just tactical in nature. It is strategically pointless. But the fact that if the Russians take Pokrov, that will be strategically catastrophic. You don't go from there's no strategic value to catastrophic failure. So there's an in between, there's a gray zone. So there is this development. There's a different shade of grays going all the way to catastrophic failure. So when you read this kind of reporting, the interviews, the kind of narrative, the words that they say, just remind yourself, you need to watch DPA. I will tell you, are they coping or are they being serious? So anyway, we have the first report of Novozelene being mentioned in the report by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, but it's very far from the front line. The main fighting is still over at Novoselivka, Persha, and Yasnobrodivka, and over at Kharkivka. So these are the main fighting area. Kharkivka, there's no updates. Over at the Novoselivka, Persha, over the past 2 days, Russian forces have basically almost conquered the entirety of Novoselivka, Persha. We are now on the verge of confirmation that the Novoselivka, Persha have been captured. The Russian sources say that the Russian forces have raised the flag. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have captured the entire settlement, but they're really very close now. So Novoselivka, Persha is the next to fall. So over at Yasnobrodivka, this was already mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry to be captured. So the Russian forces have raised the flag in the center of Yasnobrodivka, and this actually confirms that the Russian forces have taken most of these grounds, invalidating Ukrainian claims, because there's a river around here. I can show you the river. So there's a river here. There's a river here, and so the Ukrainian forces can't possibly be on this side if the Russian forces is geolocated here. So this is why the entire chunk of the land here is now invalidated. The Russians have taken all these grounds. And even though the Google mapping put the name here, it looks like Yasnobrodivka is purely these few buildings. So this building over here, this one building here, some ruins. So this looks like some mentioned by some super rich billionaire. I think it's Batman. So nice lake. It would be a lovely place to have a mansion. But of course, not at this time. This time it's just time to die. So I think this is where, and if this is exactly where you decide this is Yasnobrodivka, then of course Russian claims might have sense, because 9th of July they already say that they have captured it. Now it's already 27th. It's 3 weeks. 3 weeks already. So. But this is the first geolocation. We can confirm that the Russians have captured this position. So it is what it is. So we move on. Over at Krasnohorivka, the Battle of Krasnohorivka in the Donetsk front, Russian forces taken some grounds. I mentioned this. So just a little bit conservative mapping. So otherwise, the fighting continues over in the Battle of Krasnohorivka. And we go on. Fighting reported at Georgievka. And so nothing special about it. Over in this southern part, fighting reported at Paraskoviyevka. We have the first geolocation of Russians entering Konstantinivka. So the battle of Konstantinivka has started. Russian forces continue to push towards Vodian, and there is some fighting reported near Voleda. So that's about it over in this Donetsk front sector. And over at the western part of the Donetsk front, Russian forces are pushing in the Peshestivka region, probably just probing. And there is some reports of fighting near Novodarivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 24th. So that's about it. We move into the Zaporizhia front. So Zaporizhia city and the Zaporizhia front, the main fighting is around the Kayamsky and Orikhiv sector, the western half. And the Russian forces are pushing in the Luhivsky region, Mala Tomashka. They are heading down the highway in the north of Verbove. No reports of at Robotine. Russian forces are pushing Novoandrievka and Shebaki. So these are the few places the Russians are pushing. There's some geolocation of FPV drone strike over in the Stenokhurst region, and over in the Robotine region. In the Orikhiv sector. There's a lot of geolocation. All of these are airstrikes. So Russian airstrikes are reported in all these various locations. It nicely marks where the Ukrainians are holding their lines, in a way. This is where the Ukrainians seems to be holding a firm line. Everywhere else around here is gray zones, and the Russians are making this push in this area here around Malatomashka. So probably the report of fighting at Malatomashka is actually along the highway. So the Russians have previously been pushing over at Robotine. So this is the current strategic situation over at the Orikhiv sector. Fighting is largely for this open ground. So where the Ukrainians have captured during the 2023 counteroffensive, they are slowly losing it. So very sad times. So many soldiers died for this operation, and it achieved nothing strategic. So that's it from the Zaporizhia front. There is a shelling reported at Sadove on the 24th. Over at the Kherson front, we have Russian Defense Ministry reporting shelling at Tyakhinka, Sadove, Pridniprovsky, and Antonivka. There is a geolocation of a Russian airstrike south of Sadove, confirming one of these reports. And the Russians seems to be pushing towards the Pridniprovsky region, based on the report from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry talking about Russian attack in the Pridniprovsky direction. So otherwise, this is it from the Kherson front. So that's it. So this is the summary for the day of 882 to 883 for the 24th to 25th of July. Do press the like button, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Share this with your contacts, anyone that is interested in objective reporting. Promote DPA, help to share good information. So I'll see you guys in the next update.